If you've ever been an audience member in the show where somebody on stage is uncomfortable, you can usually you can tell. An uncomfortable person on stage will definitely make the audience uncomfortable.
Gotcha. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Antonio The Miles, and yes, this is The Empire Podcast. And this is going to be part 2 of our interview with Cash Morgan, the actor. And Cash, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So last time we were here, we talked about, going up to Oregon, how it was different than being in California, where you learned how to act and stuff like that.
Well, yeah. So it was beneficial, like in a couple different ways. Like I started saying at the end of the last podcast, the kind of being in a different environment in and of itself, and also being in high school, right? To like high school's, obviously different for everybody, but no matter what, like across the board, it's like one of the most emotional times in your life, right? Like it's whatever you're going through seems like that is what is going to last like forever. And to like navigate that just in general is like one thing, but to like be put into an environment where everybody kind of does things, a little bit differently across the board, is, it's like, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
Happens to the best of us.
Okay.
Happens to the best of us.
Hopefully we can do a quick edit there.
Yeah.
Okay.
No worries.
Reset real quick. But to like, have all those tools, but be dropped, like where everybody does everything just a little differently, and a little, slower paced, but just living day-to-day life a completely different way, and just doing that. But specifically with acting, a couple things happened. So I, of course, took drama, in entering a new drama class, and kind of having to, since I got into the very first play that was available my freshman year, that's all anybody really knew about me in the old high school, right? Is Cash, like the actor guy,
Gotcha, yeah.
He's the one that's going to come, like when we had Shakespeare Day, did a little fake, fencing thing into the classroom. Oh, come see the Shakespeare show. And then like, that's him from drama, whatever. To having to more or less like, prove yourself, I guess, like being a senior, like, okay, like, can you even do this, and
Great question.
But there was an audition in town, like at the like community theater, which was also my very first. So I auditioned for a show called The Importance of Being Earnest.
I think I remember telling us about it.
Okay. And very, very quickly, it's an English play. It's about a guy who pretends to be somebody else it's like a town and country type, like the Town and Country Mouse cartoon that you've seen, But when he goes to the country, he's a different person, and he kind of has like flings and extravagances, but it never gets into like the social circles of town because he uses a different name, which is Brunberry, right? And then his best friend that he's telling this also uses it, so there's a whole mistake and like lovers cross, and it's like a comedy, right?
Because of the name.
Mm-hmm. And and the person's first name is Ernest, but everybody's lying. So like
It's cool. It's like a play on words. I
yes,
love it. I love
yes.
it.
And I was the country butler, right? So what like impacted within all of that was like when I say I have to prove myself, I'd like auditioned and got into a play in like where I've never been. I'm still in high school, but I got auditioned.
Yeah.
So did somebody else from high school. So I was like, oh wow, you know. And then within that, I was, and probably more because of my own like my own self doubt. I couldn't do an English accent.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen
Accents are hard.
well, and also for me, I couldn't. I myself couldn't believe it because at that time, so this is all like 92, right? 1992. I hadn't really seen. I had seen white people and I had seen black people with English accents, but I hadn't really ever seen a brown person with an English accent.
Okay.
So I had nothing to kind of look at as an example. And also at that time, like I spent a lot of time in the sun. So I was like, I was very dark. And
Okay.
especially for that region, because there isn't a lot of sun.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's just not, but I moved up in September of that year. So like even
Yeah.
though there was no sun, I still I was very dark.
So a question. So obviously you said you didn't really see brown people speaking with a British accent, but you were getting darker. So couldn't you just like say, like, okay, well, I can relate closer to these people because I look closer to these people, and secondly, it's really auditorial. Language is just what you hear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And true. But again, like I had been acting for 3 years,
Okay.
you know, and I wouldn't even say I was that good, you know. However, my solution was I went to the director and was like, this is like English countryside. What if they had a Middle Eastern butler? I
Okay.
I I I could play that, and at that time it wouldn't have been unheard of, right?
Okay.
And so I changed it to that. It was a little over the top. Again, I was young. I was
Okay.
maybe not the best, but it it saved me in to where like when it came time for the performances and stuff, having gone with like an English accent, I never would have like felt comfortable enough even on stage to give something that was comfortable,
Okay.
and if you've ever gone, to a show, if you've ever been an audience member in the show where somebody on stage is uncomfortable, you can usually
Tell.
you can tell, an uncomfortable person on stage will definitely make the audience uncomfortable,
Gotcha.
and
So, quick
but
question. So, you felt more comfortable relating to someone who's from like Saudi Arabia who would live in Europe than someone who was Nigerian descent who lived in Europe
well, because
at the time?
at the time, because I had like I could look towards examples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can look towards, and go through and look for, and also like the kind of prim and proper, like, because the butler was like stiff and stuff.
Yeah,
But
he had to be.
just,
Yeah.
but I could look because again, I still needed like those certain like helpers,
Gotcha.
like
Guides, basically.
and also at that time too, when you say like it's just a vocal thing,
Mm-hmm.
it might have been there, but like I didn't know from the internet, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was still
Yeah.
such a new thing. Like I
This is 92.
right, it's 92.
Yeah.
In my mind, even if it probably was there, but I wouldn't even have thought that there'd be like accents. Like, people showing you how to do accents. I
Yeah.
don't know if YouTube was even a thing at that.
Yeah, I don't think it existed.
I doubt it
Yeah, I
did.
don't think it
I,
existed.
I really don't think it did. I think it was post 2000 at
Yeah.
least.
And I can
Um,
understand like where your younger self would come from, where it's like, okay, acting, people normally think visually
Right.
for acting, right? Secondly, they probably think, what they're hearing. So you probably think, okay, I need to see how this person is acting.
Yeah.
And I need to see someone, like going back to someone that looks like me
Right.
and how they're acting this part. And the accent's just kind of like a filler on top.
Yeah.
That's my assumption of how I think you probably was coming from with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much right on. Um, and also when the performance happened, it was like my part was very well received. Like it was funny, people laughed.
Of course.
So all of like this whole instance, right? I go from being angry and about having to move my senior year and leaving everything I've known for like my whole scholastic career, to being like really lonely, like not like, starting to meet some people, but then I do this, just somebody, hey, I think so there was a new drama teacher and I had the old drama teacher for my English class. And she's the one that said like, hey, downtown, they're auditioning. So like getting like auditioning for something in a town had only been a couple months.
What town was this?
McMinnville, Oregon. Going and getting into the show, struggling, finding a way to, again, at the time, what I thought was the best way to navigate around it.
Yeah.
And, looking back now to then, really all I did was like, I had a problem. So I like asked the director to bend the show around me,
Gotcha.
like looking back for like, I would have never done that now. I would have just done the work,
Experience.
exactly.
Yeah.
But, but doing that, so having that kind of like having a suggestion, because also the director knew that what was going on wasn't working. Like
Facts.
the entire cast knew that like this, how did this guy get in the show?
Yeah.
Basically,
Get him out of here.
So, but having it work, and then having, because that was the first time like I did something on stage and like what they're laughing at was my idea to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing it, so I'm getting the laugh. And like, like all of those components really changed it from like, oh, this is fun thing to do and get, while I'm in high school, and while they're offering this, because it was the first time I went outside of high school to do anything, like first and foremost. So I was like, oh, this is something I can just do.
Yeah.
I thought like this was just something that the high school was offering and they needed people to do it. So
And
yeah,
that was it.
I'll be one of those people. But I'm like, oh,
You can go
I
out.
thought it was just like there's that or that's your job. There was no in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the simple fact that I'm like, community theater exists like that. Oh,
That's new.
people just, okay. So like that just opened like so much, moving forward.
Yeah. And quick question, just like talking about moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1992, like, let's go we're 30 years later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what has, I'm assuming that you've probably studied and trained in places. And so you have, right? Right.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Over the
so,
years, yes.
yes. So how was studying and training for you? And do you plan on studying and training more?
Well, yes. I actually. Well, I'll answer it in order. Yes. Over the years, I've done a number of different types of training. When, like down here. So as soon as I graduated, I took a couple classes, but then so I graduated actually in '93, and then came down here to California in January of '94, and that's when I started going to Crafton and started taking classes there, and that's when I started taking classes there, and that's when I realized two things. Number one, that while I was on the right track, there was definitely, like, I thought acting was just something you did, and the more you did it, you just got better, and that was that. I didn't really know that there was actually things that you could, like, train, right? I'm just out of high school, right?
Yeah. Most probably people think that
You
you're
know,
just an actor and you show
yeah,
up.
yeah, exactly. You either have it or you don't, and like that's just it,
Yeah.
Again, I thought there was the profession, there was nothing in the
Yeah.
middle, right?
And that's partially true. Some people just show up and they get the part.
So, yeah,
Johnny Depp, for example.
Oh, I wasn't Sally Field walking across the street, and she got Gidget, I think,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
or the Flying Nun, one of the two. Anyway, I don't know which was first, honestly.
Yeah.
But like not only is it something that you can definitely learn techniques to improve on, more importantly, like that first year, and especially the first couple classes, was like you can point out all the things that you're doing wrong. When you think you're like being comfortable and this and that, like it's reading a completely different way. And once, and you're very much musically inclined. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like that moment, at whatever age is like, you go from like, looking at a piano and like, oh, if I hit this, a sound comes out, to like, oh no, that's a note within these notes. And if I can do it in a certain way, you make a melody that makes it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That when it changes from just something that makes sound, or changes from just walking around saying the words that were written, in a funny character, if you can, or, really slowly, or, whatever you think it is, to like actually, giving this character a backstory, figuring out, why he would choose, to say what he's saying, what is his motivation, and
Yeah.
all of these tools that like, so, taking like, again, that experience of the importance of being earnest, sparking that fire to where like, the fire was really raging, but like a little bit out of control, and like only burning like one tree,
Yeah.
to where like, hold on, hone it, and like, okay, now it's something I can actually work at and get better. And then, again, going back to music, when you're playing something right,
Yeah.
when you're playing it well, again, when you're on stage, whether like what you're feeling and saying is translating.
Yeah. It's the performance arts. The
Yeah.
performing arts. Yeah.
And so that was like the first kind of like, training that I had.
Gotcha. Question, Cash.
And then,
It's related to like going back to like people who just no training at all. They get the job, right? So what's your thoughts on like, and we'll definitely get back into the schooling, but it just sparked in my mind, because no diss on Johnny Depp, he's a great actor, obviously, and Sally Fields is also great as well.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
there, I do think there is a thing with like natural born talent, but then I
Definitely.
also have this thing where it's like I see act. I'm just gonna say it, Jennifer Aniston. For the longest time, I was like, this woman cannot act, and she got her acting credits for me in We're the Millers. That
Oh,
that is the movie that I was like, okay, she can act. Finally, now she can act. But then I see a bunch of people, in my opinion, just my opinion, that I don't think can act, right? And then you see all these people who have skills and talents and have trained, but they're not getting the opportunity. So, what do you think? Do you think they're just being like handpicked it on their looks? Is it who you know? Is it what you know? Like, what's your thoughts on all of that?
well, I think, there, so all of like, I think no matter what, no matter, uh, the training you have, the agent or the manager, uh, you know, or who even, like your personal contacts. I think above all of that, number one is luck. Like,
Okay.
luck has so much to do with who makes it and who doesn't,
Yeah.
and like, you know, and I don't know all of what Jennifer Aniston, has done,
Of course.
but I know, like, I know one of her first movies was Leprechaun. You know,
Oh, okay.
she
The horror film.
yes, but she's at that time she's willing to you know take that
Take the role.
because
Yeah.
that's where she's at.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody starts somewhere, right?
Facts. Facts.
Everybody, they didn't come out the gate. Brad Pitt didn't come out the gate. Brad Pitt.
Facts. Facts.
John Travolta was in like army commercials. Well.
Yeah.
Let's not get into Scientology.
Okay. Okay.
But sticking
Hello.
with
Hello.
Aniston though,
Yeah.
I think again, like it's probably her representation, and they just had that like Friends reunion,
Okay, yeah.
thing, and so I think she was actually supposed to be. She was on like another show, they were like doing a pilot,
Okay.
and she had to either do that or like hope Friends got picked up or something like that.
Wow.
But like that is like a perfect example of luck. It's
Facts.
like
Facts.
she chose to do that, and nobody could predict that. And I mean, over the years, there's been a number of television shows. I mean, baby Ricky being born on I Love Lucy, or not born, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But that happened on I Love Lucy was one of the most watched I don't know, it might still be, but like, everybody watched that. But like, Friends was a huge, like when it came out, which again I think was
Yeah.
like 94 or 95,
Yeah,
somewhere around there,
definitely.
mid 90s.
Definitely. Definitely.
It was like something where like everybody sat around the TV, but like also it was in the language. People would like joke around with each other the way they would talk, like Chandler talk. Like so many people would just do that for a laugh. That is like, that's luck. You
Yeah.
don't. But I think that it comes down to probably also like really good representation. If somebody, if you have an agent or a manager, I don't know exactly where the responsibility falls,
Between the two?
but I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah.
agent probably has the more weight. I don't know.
Yes,
I've
yeah.
watched some Entourage. I don't know all the ins and outs.
Got you.
But like, those people are the ones who are like fighting to get you at least into the room, or like, and and then auditioning is, but yeah, to answer your question shortly, I think it's like luck and representation.
Got you.
Like,
And maybe preparation, maybe a little bit of that.
yeah, I mean, it's always good. You always want to be prepared for anything.
I like it. I agree.
Like, no matter what. And then I took a few acting classes, also like in Hollywood type,
Okay.
those kind of acting classes, like weekend seminars or like 3-week classes or stuff like that.
Any big known places that you've studied at?
Not really, and I don't even know if they exist anymore.
Okay.
To be honest. And then also in like at that time, well, probably like 94, 95 ish. I was I did like this thing. I know it's by Universal Studio, or it was by Universal Studios, but we went into an office like because my friend took me there because he used to do it. But you like sign up and basically they give you like extra work, like you're gonna be in the
Okay.
background,
Okay.
or like my my buddy that got me into it, he was actually on the old Power Ranger show. They used to
Hey.
have
The
putties.
putties.
Yeah, he was a putty on probably like 6
Oh
episodes where he
man.
had to like
Power Rangers was life.
yes,
It's morphin' time.
and he was on 90210. This was when they were in
Wow.
college.
Wow.
He was walking across the background. He can be seen in a couple. There was actually one night we were because he told us about it. So Jenny McCarthy had a show.
Okay.
And it was a straight up sitcom. And there was like a thing where it was at a party, and he was like he was sitting in the middle of the couch, and there was two people on either side of him, and then Jenny McCarthy and the other co-star of the show were like directly behind him talking.
Interesting.
So he was like right there, like in view,
Mm-hmm.
like oh shit, and then I think it came back from commercial, and basically he walked like literally the whole frame of the TV was his face walking by, um, but yeah, I did that. But like the most recent thing that I've done